Sure this goes. Preparing to live stream. Camera roll. Okay. Is that a good, what do we know? We should go over a little bit. That, how's that? Is that a good shot? Get a little
Close it in, so as you been along, yeah.
Everybody wants to see your beautiful face, right? Machine of boom. Yiddish, beautiful face. There we go. That's fine, right? All right. Stream is not started. Do I need to do anything to start the stream, or do what I was supposed to do on my end? It's always live streaming. All right. Let's hope for the best. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Okay. I assume it's working. Yep. All right. I think you can just turn it. You might have to turn the screen off.
The what? Underneath, right?
Exactly.
I was just, and I found it on I was going nuts because people were coming in for therapy and have So there's two things.
Yeah, I was, they keep winning.
Awesome. Although the Yankees, they won like 5 in a row or something, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know, they have nuts. Got me a little worried.
Yeah, no, I'm not, it's the Rays, don't want to go away.
I was just on, I was up in Swansea, Mass with the family. But it's nice seeing some size hats around.
Yeah, I think some of the guys, I think it was Jeff and Henry were talking about P-Town. And I was thinking, I haven't been there in probably 16, I don't know, and it just takes so long to get there, so long.
And it's just an extra, go back and
Yeah.
find out.
Yeah.
And for my family, it's great because I can get there about 4.5 hours, because they're really just past Providence. You take it out in 5 hours.
Well, what they do is they fly to Boston and take a boat.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, that's the,
Yeah.
actually, my dad just took me out to pick up a new hat, and he got me, I'm not wearing it, he got me a lapel pin to put on my sleeves.
Yeah.
He was down in Philly the other day. So I got a lot. A little bit, we grew up in New,
Yeah.
where they live now, it's just so beautiful, the coast there, it's just really, they're right on the Americans today, basically. It's beautiful.
So I'm saying, even like my kids, you never really spent the time as an adult.
So my 4 years of college was a break.
Yeah.
So I did a little bit, but I was on campus a lot, so it wasn't quite the same.
Yeah.
So no, not the same way. Yeah,
So
it's
they
a little
don't
different.
have the same.
It's not the same sort of connection, exactly. But I love getting out there and just being on the water. It's so nice.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed Miranda's and we always were feeling close to it.
Yeah.
It's always so.
Oh, yeah, I'm right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually. Susan, you want to do the Aliyah this morning? Sure. All right.
Just talking and we need to get slow or trouble. Teachers
I appreciate it.
I know.
Why don't we get started? I think we got it in. What do you say, everyone? All right, Shabbat Shalom. Let's begin on page 70. How good, how pleasant it is when siblings, when friends, when family and congregants all dwell together. Shevet achim yam yachad, hine matov manayim. Shevet achim yam yachad, hine matov. Shevet achim yam yachad, hine matov. Shevet achim yam yachad, hine matov manayim. Shevet achim yam yachad, hine We continue on page 76. First with Asher Yatzar, followed by page 78, Eloheinu Shama. Two prayers, one for our body, one for our soul. A lot from Torah study this morning about those two and how really they are so connected. And so first we read together in the English on page 76. Praise to you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who formed the human body with skill, creating the body's many pathways and openings. It is well known before your throne of glory that if one of them be wrongly opened or closed, it would be impossible to endure and stand before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, who heals all flesh, working wondrously. Baruch atah Adonai, rofecho basar, mafli ma'asor. Page 78. We continue in chanting our Nisim B'chol Yom, our prayers for our daily miracles. We'll chant the first 6 words together in Hebrew, the blessing formula, followed by the English underneath on pages 80 and following. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has given the mind the ability to distinguish day from night. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who opens the eyes of the blind. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who frees the captive. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who lifts up the fallen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who stretches the earth over the waters. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who strengthens our steps. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who clothes the naked. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who gives strength to the weary. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who sleep from the eyes and slumber from the eyelids. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who made me in the image of God. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has made me free. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has made me a Jew. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who girds Israel with strength. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who crowns Israel with splendor. The top of page 86, our prayer for the study of Torah together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asot b'divrei Torah. We put our words of blessing into action. We study in the Torah. Let's read on the middle of page 88, from this text, Elu Devarim. These are things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study, morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedded couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all. Page 100. Hallelujah, 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 Kol Hashema, Hallelujah, 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 Kol Hashema, Hallelujah, Continue on page 108 and rise for our call to worship. Baruch Hu et Adonai, Together at the top of page 111. In the beginning, even then, a new light was sown for the righteous, a promise that your light will become a catalyst, first for order and then for hope. Author of language and light, help us to use words as you have, to cast light into dark waters and draw out justice and truth. Baruch atah Adonai, Yosef HaMe'orot. And on the middle of page 113, before we read, I'll just say, the reading Ahava Rabbah and the evening service Ahavat Olam that come before Shema V'Ahavta are about love. They're about God's love for us, as you'll see. And how powerful that right before declaring our love for God, we talked about Torah study this morning, we first hear words that God loves us and cares for us. And so we read together, love your neighbor as yourself, he said, and like-minded we saw, the inner and outer worlds are one as you are one. You spoke and we wrote, we reached you down the centuries, your light moving before us, we climb, fell back, and climbed again. Your Sinai, love. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu Amo Yisrael, be'ahava. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shem Yevon Avot Le'olam Va'ed. Please be seated, and let's actually read together in English on 116 because I'm going to be chanting it for a little bit of the service. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. Take to heart these instructions which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand. Let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and be holy to your God. I, your God, brought you out from the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai, your God. Middle of page 121, read responsibly. The eternal truth is that you are alone, our God, and there is none else. The greatest of all nations, rejoice in your love and exalt in your justice. Let them be your swords and plowshares, and your spears into pruning hooks. Let nation not against nation, you shall not hate your brother or your sister in your heart. The spirit that sojourns with you shall be accepted as your equal. For you are strangers in the land. Why do you crush my people and oppress the poor? Asks God. You know that the eternal one has all rights to me. Praise the God Most High. Blessed is God, servant of us. Israel, Kuma Bezrat Israel, Ikun Mechik Yav Israel, Goaleinu Adonai Tzvaot Shemo, Kadosh Israel, Baruch Atah Adonai Israel. We continue to Tefillah, pages 124 and following. Please rise. Adonai, Sifat HaZikah, Rufi HaKitzeh Adonai, open up my lips and my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Adonai Adonai
So let no finger may who might hear us scream, crying and not each day they are far. If I know about you, wrote, who we go and love, never believe to the kind, who might see a fish you are. Nema Tayo Tapo, Rukata Runai, Nekaye Tapo, Nekaye Shikama Olam, Shikama Shibo, Turishima, Aratula Yadiana, Nekama Selsen Amar, Adoshka, Doshka, Dosh. Nights with our and love for our heads, I dear, you make our maker, I dear, she cut our heads, I look at our and I will hate you. Latino Marqueiro, o Mochieiro, e a Chieiro, pela chamada e Concai, a Rainha Rainha Lorena, o Rainha Leonan, Elohai, Sion, Edor, Ador, Alleluia. The door of the ego the Neta Putake, Shakara, Tish, Shikara, Vinu, Ipiru, Yamush, Leonam, Rosatana, please be seated.
Middle of page 141, join together our prayer for peace. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, eternal source of peace. And give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. Make contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of our world. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name fill every home and every heart. Praise to you, Adonai, and bless your people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, v'barech atah Israel. Take moments now for silence.
Shalom, Yes, Shalom Aleichem. Le'am Kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Kol Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Kol Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Kol Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Kol Yisrael.
Please rise as we continue with our Torah service on page 244. I used to have all the pages memorized in my head, and we didn't use our book for so long, it's coming back to me. Ein kamocha Elohim Adonai, ve'ein kema'asecha, malchutecha malchut olamim, u'memshaltecha bechol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yitloch ve'olom ba'ed, Adonai oz le'moiteh, Adonai yivarech et amo b'shalom. Page 246.
Ki mitzvot tetzei Torah, Ki mitzvot tetzei Torah, U'devar Adonai Yerushalayim. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Le'amo Yisrael, B'kedushato.
Page 248.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonai. Kadosh Shemo, Adonai Iti, Yeromema Shemo Yadav, Adonai Ha'yedula, Ha'yedura, Ha'tiferet, Ha'netzach Elhamor, Ki Hashamayim Ba'aretz, Ki Hashamayim. Adonai, Amamaka, Elani Naseh, Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'ishtachavu, Le'hakodsho. Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu.
Please be seated. Where that one came from? That's kind of fun. You know that one, Malcolm. Harry just comes next, right? All right. We are reading from Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4 through verse, I want to say verse 9, probably. I think that. Verse 9. Deuteronomy 6, 4 through 9. In the Black October commentary, maybe someone can find it, let us know what page. It's Shema, 1366. Deuteronomy 6, chapter 6, verse 4 to verse 9. And it should look pretty familiar. That's perfect, beautiful. Okay, we're on text to bear to be out loud for us this morning.
Baruch es Adonai HaMorah.
Baruch Adonai Barach Me'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMorah Me'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam, asher b'karmanu mikol ha'aviv v'nachmanu et Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu HaTorah.
Amen. Amen. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Elohecha b'chol levavecha b'chol nafshecha b'chol me'odecha. Ve'chayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher Anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha. Vishinantam al levanecha v'divartam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'leftecha b'derech uv'shoftecha uv'kumecha kshartam le'od b'ayatecha v'hayu letotafot b'einecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei ha'olam natan b'torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu HaTorah.
Amen. With our Torah still out, before I lift it, return. Thank you. With our Torah still out, we do our Shabbat, which is traditionally done during the Torah service, an opportunity as we think of all of those in our community who are not well, not able to be here to hear these beautiful words of Torah. So if there's someone that you're holding in your heart and even healing the Shabbat, I invite you to say their names aloud. If you're joining us virtually, type the names in the chat. The Shabbat can be found on page 253.
Make a source of strength, who bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Yisheberach imotenu, ekor habracha, lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shema, renewal of body, renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We chanted this morning from Ve'ahavta. But I want to talk a little this morning about specifically one of the 10 Commandments, which is another thing we read in our Torah. So let me ask first, has anyone here seen the movie The Big Lebowski?
Years ago, I don't know.
There we go, it's probably 20 years old. I have the Jeff Bridges, it's also got John Goodman in it, it's also got Steve Buscemi. It's a fantastic movie. Not the most appropriate, so like don't watch it shown with your kids, but it's a great movie. It's kind of it's a lot of fun. In the movie though, John Goodman's character has converted to Judaism years and years ago, He was married to a Jewish woman. Probably part of the reason he converted was he was getting married, which, that's not uncommon. Although I say when I see families where, one partner is Jewish, the other is, and they're converting in sort of preparation for marriage, I don't look down upon it as like, oh, you're only converted to get married. It's actually a beautiful thing. It's a major step this person is taking. And oftentimes it's not about like, because we don't require it, it's about wanting a united household. It's wanting one religion in the house that they can teach their children. And oftentimes, maybe that partner is the one that introduced the person to Judaism in the first place. They might not have ever gone down that path if it wasn't for that Jewish partner. But I find most of the time this person is converted because they've fallen in love with Judaism, just as they've fallen in love with this partner of theirs. And so I say that because there's a beautiful part in the movie where they're on a bowling league together, and the league schedules them to have a Saturday game. And John Goodman is a practicing, an observant, I don't really like that word, but is a Jew who keeps certain means of vote according to Orthodox traditions after he converted. And specifically, he says, I'm Shomer Shabbos. He actually says something a little more inappropriate. He says, I'm Shomer Effin Shabbos. It's one of the best lines in the whole movie. It's very different because they scheduled this game. He told them many times. And then at one point, the Big Lebowski, who's played by Jeff Bridges, says to him, you're divorced. You're not even married to your wife anymore. And he says, dude, that's what they call Jeff Lebowski. He says, dude, 4,000 years of beautiful tradition from Moses to Sandy Koufax. You don't throw that away just because you get divorced. And so he's still a practicing Jew. There's something really beautiful about this. This is all to say the term Shomer Shabbos or Shomer Shabbos. Has anyone heard that before? What does that mean? Shomer Shabbat or Shomer Shabbos. What does that mean? Who's heard that term before? What does it mean, Sinavi?
Guard the Shabbat.
To guard the Sabbath, to guard Shabbat. And tell me, so that's the literal translation. Someone tell me more about like what does it mean when someone is Shomer Shabbos? How would we describe it?
I thought it meant they follow all the rules.
They follow
Torah.
They follow the commandments around Shabbat. Specifically, you can also be Shomer mitzvot, where you guard all of the mitzvot, right? You can also be Shomer Negia. Shomer Negia, that's something I learned, unfortunately, my freshman year at Brandeis. I grew up a nice Reformed Jew. I hadn't met many Orthodox kids. We grew up in Newton. I get to Brandeis freshman year, a very friendly Eli. A young woman, I meet her, I go to shake her hand, and her friend goes, she doesn't touch blood, she's Shomer Negia. What does that even mean? Shomer, guarding, Negia, or the touch. This is someone who chooses not to touch someone of a different gender that's not outside their family. Very awkward. I'll say, by the way, and I've told this story before, a wonderful Rabbi Yehuda Sarna, who was one of my mentors at NYU. He's the Hillel rabbi there. He's also now the chief rabbi of the United Arab Emirates, which is like the best job ever.
Wow.
I remember seeing him, he is Shomer Negia. He's Orthodox, that is his personal practice. I remember freshman year seeing a young woman go to shake his hand. What does he do? He puts out his hand and shakes it. And I went up to him afterwards privately, and I kind of said, I didn't do that. He said, I am. I'm also not a jerk. And he taught me, he said, Eli, in life, there are always competing commandments. And in my mind, the mitzvah of not embarrassing someone, of welcoming, took greater precedence in that moment over my personal obligation to Shomer Negia. So, Shomer Shabbat, they won't drive, right? They won't use electricity. They won't pick up the phone. They won't roll on Shabbos. That's the line in the Big Lebowski. Bowls, and they call him, he goes, I don't roll on Shabbos. You won't even bowl on Shabbat, because if you think about it, bowling, you gotta pay money, you gotta write, right? Because you gotta keep the scores, you gotta push maybe the button to clear the pins, just using electricity. There's probably a lot of reasons where you gotta drive to the bowling alley, lots of reasons why that would not be keeping the traditional keeping of Shomer Shabbat. However, Shomer Shabbat is the way Shabbat is described in the Ten Commandments in this week's portion. As we remember, the Ten Commandments occur twice in the Torah. Once in the book of Exodus and once in the book of Deuteronomy. In the book of Deuteronomy, what we read this morning in Parshat Chanah, it says, Shamor et Yom HaShabbat v'yikadshehu. Keep, guard the Sabbath and keep it holy. However, in the book of Exodus, it's said different. Does anyone remember how it's said in Exodus? Zachor, remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. We have 2 candles in Shabbat for Shamor, the Zachor. If you open up your prayer book to page 20, one of my favorite lines, Shlomo HaLevi Alkabetz, the beautiful author of L'Chadud Di, such a poetic line. If you look at verse 1 on page 20, Shamor v'zachor b'gibor echad. Shamor, guard, keep, v'zachor, and remember b'gibor echad, in a single commandment. God only said the 10 commandments once, right? Yet, they're written 2 different ways. The Kabbalists believed it was only God can do this, right? We can't say 2 words in one time, but God can do this. Shamor and Zachor in a single command. It's so beautiful about that. We focus so much in our Jewish world on Shomer Shabbat, on Shamor. But what about Zachor? There's a wonderful rabbi Alexander Kress, who he actually grew up in Philadelphia. He's a Reformed rabbi, a younger guy. He's now out in LA. If you go on Sefaria, he is like prolific. He has so many good things out there. And he has a text sheet, which I'm taking some of the ideas from this morning, and I want to read you a couple quotes, where he says, he calls it being Zocher Shabbat. Being Zocher Shabbat. We always think about, and Big Lebowski and cultural reference, all these things, being Shomer Shabbat. But what would it mean to be Zocher Shabbat? He quotes Rabbi Larry Kushner, who writes in his book, A Shabbat Reader. And for those that don't know, Lawrence Kushner, awesome guy. He, from Sudbury, right? Sudbury, Mass? I slept over his house once at a Shabbaton. Yeah, because his daughter and I were not that far apart, and we were nifty together, and they like had a sleepover. I still remember it. He's written some beautiful Kabbalistic stuff, Honey from the Rock, and he's wonderful. In A Shabbat Reader, he writes, we need a way to describe liberal Jews who are serious about Shabbat. Shomer Shabbat, keeper of Shabbat, based as it is on the language of the actual commandment of Deuteronomy, could be ideal. Unfortunately, it has been appropriated and defined meticulously and oppressively by someone else. So we return to the text of the 4th commandment and realize that it is said twice, once in Deuteronomy and again in Exodus. In Deuteronomy, we are told Shamor, keep the Shabbat, but in Exodus, the verb is different. We are told Zachor, remember the Shabbat. Perhaps it is for us to create a new standard of Shabbat behavior called Zachor Shabbat. One who is Zocher Shabbat would remember throughout the day's duration that it was Shabbat. Not so easy as it first sounds. We say to one another, do anything you want, as long as you will remember that it's Shabbat, and that you will ensure that whatever you do will be the Kavod HaShabbat, for the honor of Shabbat. I love this idea of becoming a Zocher Shabbat. Traditionally, actually, the rabbis viewed it this way. They saw Shomer Shabbat as representing the negative commandments, the don'ts, and they saw Zachor Shabbat as remembering the positive precepts of Shabbat, like Oneg Shabbat. So, I want to open it up and ask you, because I'm assuming, as many of us are here this morning, as we turn on lights, as we have our live streaming going, as I was using my phone earlier and checking my watch, that I don't presume that any of us in our community are Shomer Shabbat, as it has been defined by others. However, I think many of us, maybe all of us, as I look around this room, are Zocher Shabbat. What does it mean to you to be Zocher Shabbat? How do you remember Shabbat? How do you lift up the positive precepts?
I come to Torah study. No, but I go online and I think, oh, but this is Shabbat.
Yes, I love that. That's it. Study Torah. What a great way.
I do go online, you know, but it's like in my head, this is Shabbat, I probably shouldn't be doing,
But again, you're Zocher. You're not a showman, right? I love that. Other ways. How else do you Zocher Shabbat?
Just to make it different from any other day.
Yeah. And what does that mean? What does that mean for
It
you?
means not getting up at 5:30, 6 o'clock and going out and walking.
I
It
love that.
means maybe not walking or maybe waiting until late.
I love that. Sleeping in, right?
Changing the routine. a little bit,
Yeah, right.
Making sure that I realize it is Shabbat.
And when we say Kiddush on Friday night, right, that word, kadosh, Kiddush, it comes from the root to mean holy. But what is holy? Holy is set apart, special, unique, different, right? That is what holiness is all about. And so what we're doing when we say Kiddush on Friday night is we're marking Shabbat as a holy time, a set apart time that is different. I love that idea. How else do people make Shabbat? How else do you Zocher Shabbat in your lives? What do you do, Ellen?
Well, I try not to do emailing and phoning, which for me is very hard. But I try. And instead we try to do things like go for long walks.
I love that. I similarly, I don't do email, and I stay off of it, and even though like I'm technically, I wouldn't call it work, because I love the services, but and as a rabbi, it's a little hard to not work exactly in Shabbat, but I distinguish, I'm not doing the emails, I'm not doing the day-to-day stuff, exactly, I love that.
I try not to shop, shop.
Yeah, just as,
But also, I just have to say that this is my first time back in the chapel, and they're taking the Torah out, and it's so wonderful to come back to this, and I realize I've forgotten pieces of the service and some of the words, and so it's really
we're Zocher, we're
wonderful to grab back onto, and so dedicating the morning, Torah study, now this, I go back and will participate in Zoom with my Seattle Torah study.
Oh.
It's wonderful to have, it's not only the stimulation of the study, but the communities, the interaction with communities.
I love that. Something for our family that really started during the pandemic, it's been a really special Zocher Shabbat, and we remember it's been Challah. And we've been making challah every single week, and it's been one of those.
beautiful online.
Thank you. It's been, I give all the credit. I make the dough. We have a nice sort of thing. I make the dough in the morning, but then I hand it off, and Laurel does the braiding, and then Josephine and Nora, actually, Nora made the dough with me this morning. She did yesterday, she dumped all the ingredients in. And then Laurel usually does the braiding, and Josephine does the glazing and the topping. The topping, M&M's, jelly beans, gummy bears, sprinkles, but it's such a special thing for our girls, that tradition, a positive way that sets Shabbat apart, and having that challah, and then the next morning, having challah French toast. Exactly. Anything else, other ways that folks Zocher Shabbat?
Well, I mean, I contact each of my granddaughters to say Shabbat Shalom. I mean, I don't, because I'm in touch with them all the time, so,
Yeah,
and it feels good,
that's beautiful.
and they respond.
Yeah. Is it just Shiranari or?
Well, I have another granddaughter in Ohio, she's
Yeah.
better, she responds.
That's nice that you don't see her regularly, that's really special. I love that, Muriel, oh, beautiful. I'll say, there's a lot more here on the sheet, and I'll encourage anyone who wants to read more about this to check out Being Zocher Shabbat by Rabbi Alex Kress, because he also has this beautiful classical reform text from Rabbi Bernard Felsenthal that is just, it's a riot, it's fantastic, and even he ends with, he even goes so far as to say, you may even during the afternoon ride out to the public gardens in order to listen to the symphony of Beethoven. And we do not find it a sinful desecration of the day if in doing so you smoke a cigar. And he goes on, it's very, right? But this idea that we say, that in a traditional, very strict Shomer Shabbat, you wouldn't light a cigar, but if that's what brings you joy, it's very good for your health. I don't know if they knew that when he was writing, probably well over 100 years ago, but it's a beautiful text. But I'll just end with one final thought of my own, which is Rabbi Tarfon. I point to my tallis because the quote of my tallit is from Rabbi Tarfon. This is well, it's not up to you to finish the work, but not having to insist on it. Rabbi Tarfon said a lot of other things, and we talked a lot about Rabbi Akiva's. Rabbi Tarfon was Rabbi Akiva's chavruta. He was his study partner. And actually, throughout the Talmud, the first generation of rabbis is Hillel and Shammai, who are probably the great of their generation that are constantly bickering. The next generation is Tarfon and Akiva. And I wrote my rabbinic thesis about Tarfon. Tarfon comes from the line of Shammai, actually. Akiva comes from Hillel. The rulings always go with Akiva. Tarfon is always the dissenting opinion, but he has one of my favorite dissenting opinions about Shabbat. And the story goes, it's told in the Talmud, that Rabbi Tarfon was traveling to a village far away to celebrate Shabbat there. And he got delayed on the road. And suddenly it was nightfall. The sun set, and he was too far away from the village. According to the ruling on how to work and what the rabbis had decided, he could only walk a certain distance in Shabbat. You can't travel that far, and it would have been too far for him to go all the way to that village. The rabbis debate, what should he do? Should he sit by the side of the road and just wait it out, celebrate Shabbat all on his own, or go the distance? Tarfon decides to get up and go. He keeps going. And for him, the positive precept of remembering the Sabbath, of oneg Shabbat, of making the Sabbath day a joy, outweighs the negative precept there. He's wrong. I mean, no, he's not wrong. The ruling goes with Akiva, who says you shouldn't have done that, Tarfon. Akiva's a little more machmir, he's a little more strict about some of these rules. And Akiva said, we might not agree, but Akiva said you should have stayed here. Tarfon doesn't. And the rabbis end up ruling with Akiva, the majority, and that's where the law goes ultimately. But Tarfon's dissenting opinion is preserved in our text. There's something so beautiful about that dialogue that we have. So as much as perhaps the ruling has come down in our normative tradition of Judaism, has really pushed more on the Shomer Shabbat side, we remember Tarfon. We remember that idea of joy, and we need to remember Exodus, Zohar, remember Shabbat as well. Let us now prepare to lift and then return the Torah to power. Please rise, Susan, if you'll give me a hand. And I'll just point out as I lift the Torah, try to see if you can, the beautiful way that Shema is written with a big ayin and a big dalet that Cantor Hyman taught us about last night. V'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Torah, Torah, hallelujah. Torah, ora, Torah, ora, hallelujah. All right. There we go. Good. All right. Good breath. God on the right side. All right. I think we are on page 256. Yes. It's
וכל נתיבותיה שלום. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה. קדש, קדש ימינו, קדש ימינו כקדם.
We remain standing for Aleinu on page 282. Aleinu Shabbat Adon Hakol, Lateitu La Yotzer Breshit, Shehunot Shamayim Yosef Aretz, Loshani Karol Bashamayim Imamau, Ushkinatu Zov V'Koten Yeromim, U'Eloheinu Eilon, Va'anachnu Korim, U'Ishtachanim Korim, Lifnei Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. 27. Lemor Hayadonai Melech Al Kol Haaretz, Hayom Hahu, Yeh Adonai Echad, U'Shemo Echad. Please be seated. Our thoughts now turn to those who departed this earth. Our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. This week, our congregation observes yahrzeit for Henry Hirsch Allman, Abraham L. Hall, Arthur J. Barkhouse Jr., Edgar Bernstein, Leon Blumberg, Fanny Brooks, Ruth Blum-Buckler, A.P. Carlton, Jacqueline Cohen, Samuel Joe Cohen, Frederick Cornell, Joseph S. Dreyfus, Lillian Eichenberg, Janice Elliott, Josephine Pennybuck, Saul Feld, Herman W. Ferber, Isidore Fox, Lee Weiss Frank, Diane S. Friedman, Francis Ann Friesman, Sadie Koch Rensfelder, Edward S. Goldberg, Gertrude Handel, Norman J. Kalshine, Abraham Kaplan, Charles Kaiser, Marjorie Asher Kine, Isidore Cohn, Jacob M. Korn, David V. Crumples, Florence R. Lee, Arthur Lefkoe, Barbara S. Levy, Rita S. Levy, Leonard A. Levine Sr., Joseph Levinson, Maxwell S. Levy, Mary Soloff Lindy, Virginia H. Lockheim, Arnold Love, Arthur McEnow, Lane Baker, Samuel Nemiroff, Anna Zeitman-Netsky, Emily Newman, Barry Oster, David Patashur, Rose Paris, Norma Pinkinson, Clarissa H. Popkin, Michael J. Rosenberg, Rosa F. Rosenblum, Nancy Rowan, Joseph M. Selesky, Mayor Seidenbeck, Selena R. Seidenbeck, Ronald Silverman, David Van Sclaroff, Walter F. Spiegel, Molly Stein, Ernest Strauss, Gary Teller, Julius H. Tolson, Abraham Tompkins, Flora B. Wasserman, Adolph Wasserman, Esther Wasserman, Gordon Weinberg, Jacob Walker, David A. Weiss, Murray Weiss, Alfred Edwin Weiss, Sylvia Weiss, Albert J. Wild, Frank M. Wayne Jr., Benjamin Waldo, Milton Tuttle Wolf, Lester Zachai. We have the names of those who were taken from our midst, not from our hearts in these most recent days. Rhoda Sotsman. This week, our congregation will be buried Eleanor Siegel. If you are observing yahrzeit or shloshim for a loved one whose name I did not call, please feel free to type the name in the chat or to write the names or to say the names aloud this time. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be a blessing. We rise, page 294 of the Mortar's Couch. Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Leirach, Yama, Yivrach, Yoteh, Yamlich, Malkuteh,
Chaye Chon Yomechon, Chaye B'Chol Beit Yisrael. B'Agalah Yitzman Karim Yibru Amen. Yehi Shmei Raham Barach Le'olam Le'olam. Yifarach Yishnatam Yifarach Yitzalam Yitnaseh. Yitzadar Yitzaleh Yitzalach Shmei Kudisha V'Echud. Ve'elam Yikol Birkata V'Shirata. Tushbechata V'Nechemata. Dam Yiragli Alma Yibru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Bin Shemaya. Chayim Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael Yibru Amen. Oseh Shalom Yibru Uya Aseh Shalom Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael Yibru Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all of Israel, and let us say, Amen. Oseh Shalom Yibru Uya Aseh Shalom. Amen. Let us conclude in song. Want to do a Don Juan? All right, page 321. Kiddush and Motzi outside.
Right.
That's fine. Oh, no, we're just, I'm sorry, just for a while, I'm gonna let it go to mine. Stand. That was fun. Muriel, there's a B7 in there somewhere. It's this word. I can't remember where that goes. It's before you go to the fast one.
Oh, but I was thinking.
Do you recognize some of it? Where are you coming over there? So one of my first services, 11 years ago, I just used to be there with Rabbi Kuhn. Rabbi Kuhn says every person stays out. And because that's Rabbi Walsey spinning over in his grave right now. One of the best lines. I love you. It's fun. And then you reminded me how much fun it is. I mean, all done, we shut down.
Should be a busy history.
Yes.
Google it.
There's a Philadelphia in the other. And there's also a very great, yeah. There's a Philadelphia one as well. Yeah.
It's great, they sound great, it's kind of amazing.
No, but you gotta shut down properly, like a good start into it.
What are you doing over there?